Good to see you again on our channel. Tom Johnston finally speaks up about his complicated and sometimes tumultuous friendship with Michael McDonald today. There was a turning point for the Doobie Brothers in 1975. The band's lead singer and principal songwriter, Johnston, had to withdraw from the group because of health problems. Now we have Michael McDonald, a talented singer and pianist who has a gift for creating heartfelt music. He brought a new energy to the band's sound and signaled a major change in course when he joined. McDonald's jazz-infused, R&B-infused style stood in stark contrast to Johnston's rock and roll roots. Johnston experienced a sense of loss when he underwent the transition. Because of McDonald, the music he had poured his heart and soul into had changed. The band reached new commercial heights with hits like Minute by Minute and What a Fool Believes, but their older, guitar-driven style was lost on long-standing fans. As time went on, Johnston opened up about how it felt to be on the outside looking in as his band changed into something he didn't recognize. The method was the main point of contention between Johnston and McDonald, not the music. Johnston was a born rock star who thrived on the unpredictability of the moment. In contrast, McDonald was painstaking, playing every note in perfect synchronization. The studio was tense due to this conflict of styles. Johnston felt eclipsed by McDonald's rising domination, and sessions that ought to have been cooperative instead became struggles for control. The tensions were at an all-time high by the late 1970s. With McDonald's growing influence, Johnston found it difficult to regain his voice, even if he was back with the band. As each man sought to assert his authority over the creative process, tensions rose in the dynamic. Johnston was more concerned with the concept of respect than with the music itself. He thought the band had lost sight of their original, infectious energy because of McDonald's influence and had instead settled for a more polished, radio-friendly sound. Known for their rigorous standards and relentless quest of excellence, Steely Dan was McDonald's previous employer before he joined the Doobie Brothers. The time he spent with Walter Becker and Donald Fagen had its advantages and disadvantages. Despite his contributions to legendary songs like Peg and Black Friday, the process was stressful for him. The artistic inclinations of McDonald frequently ran counter to the infamously perfectionist Becker and Fagen. Though productive from a professional standpoint, the relationship stained McDonald's image as an uncooperative person, a stigma that would accompany him into his work with the Doobie Brothers. This Is It and Ride Like the Wind, all of which were created through McDonald's collaborations with Kenny Loggins and Christopher Cross, were enormously successful. The collaborations, however, weren't always without their hiccups. On rare occasions, McDonald's intensity became too much for Loggins, who is famous for his easygoing personality. Similarly, McDonald's perfectionist pace was too much for Christopher Cross to handle. The creative processes were frequently tense, but the songs they made together were top charters. McDonald's problems extended beyond his contemporaries. There was a lot of tension in his relationship with record companies. As McDonald began his solo career in the 1980s, he was under increasing pressure from executives to create music that would sell better. Conflicts arose as a result of the demands and his desire to experiment with different sounds. While the labels saw McDonald as stubborn and obstinate, he saw the concessions as breaches of his creative integrity. Even though Michael McDonald had a storied career, he was under constant criticism from both the media and detractors. During a time when unadulterated rock music was popular, his distinctive style, which was soulful, refined, and highly polished, set him apart. His silky voice and complex orchestration were symbols of musical greatness to some. Some saw them as symbols of the industry's excessively clinical and perfectionism. Criticisms of McDonald persisted, accusing him of watering down the gritty, genuine sound that many listeners associated with the golden period of rock. These comments went beyond being a professional slight. They cut to the core of McDonald's identity. In order to make music that was both groundbreaking and approachable, he had dedicated innumerable hours to honing his skills. It felt like his efforts had been betrayed when he was told he was too polished. McDonald was never one to conform, but he was unfairly accused of being too far removed from rock's origins because he refused to play to the crowd or the media. Additionally, McDonald's reclusive personality lent credence to this story. Journalists frequently found him unapproachable, misunderstanding his reserved demeanor for hubris, despite the fact that fans admired his modesty and concentration. The interviews turned into contentious affairs. Many people view McDonald's lack of enthusiasm for deeply engaging as an indication of contempt. He was portrayed by the media as someone who was uninterested in the show of fame, distant, and unwilling to play the game, all because they were hungry for eccentric personalities. The media's and McDonald's strained relationship set off a domino effect. His public image took a hit as his guard went up in response to mounting criticism from the press. This reputation for being tough often obscured his musical talents, which included albums with innovative arrangements and moving performances. It made little difference that the hits he made with superstars like Kenny Loggins and Steely Dan will last forever. Instead, his purported inaccessibility and distancing from the raw intensity of rock were front and center on the headlines. Not only did McDonald's face challenges with public perception, but it also impacted their connections within the music industry. Those in charge and producing, he caved to the media's demands that he change, add aggression to his music, and abandon his original, exacting vision for a sound that would satisfy the reviewers. Despite McDonald's resistance, the price was high. There was an ongoing struggle between the demands of conformity and the freedom to express himself creatively, which occasionally caused him to feel alienated from the industry he had fought so hard to get into. A tranquil life belied Michael McDonald's deep voice when he was out of the spotlight, a quality that brought his music legendary status. His perfectionism also caused conflict in his personal relationships. According to those closest to him, he was a man whose tremendous passion for his work occasionally got in the way of his capacity to form genuine connections with others. His close associates felt like they were competing with his career for his attention and energy, despite the fact that his painstaking attention to detail won him professional praise. Constant touring amplified these issues due to its continuous strain. The thrill of adventure quickly gave way to the monotony of life on the road. Long periods of time away from home and night after night of performing emotionally depleted McDonald. He frequently struggled with a deep feeling of loneliness as the cheers died down and the tour buses entered new towns. Even with the support of his fans and the friendship of his bandmates, McDonald still had times when he felt quite alone, far from the familiarity and comfort of his family. Although his career benefited from his fame, it had negative effects on his personal life as well. The pressures of his rising stardom prevented McDonald from committing to long-term partnerships. There wasn't much time for the regular rituals that strengthen relationships due to the late hours in the studio, the never-ending stream of interviews, and the pressure to produce hit after hit. His friends said he could be emotionally aloof at times, preoccupied with trying to perfect his music while his personal life was out of whack. Even his commitment to his family was put to the test. A lot of the time, McDonald felt like he had to choose between his profession and his roles as a husband and father. Adding insult to injury, he had to contend with the double whammy of supporting his family and maintaining his artistic reputation. Although he excelled in the studio, his obsession with detail and stress quickly became a domestic source of contention. His inner struggle accompanied McDonald through the highs and lows of fame. The guy behind the music was frequently struggling with the very relationships he sang about, even though his songs dealt with themes of togetherness and love. His professional image stands in stark contrast to the reality of his personal troubles, revealing an artist whose devotion can be both his driving force and his downfall. At home, McDonald frequently heard stillness in contrast to the ovation he received on stage, a sobering illustration of the costs associated with a life devoted to his craft. When Johnston thinks back on his time working with McDonald, he has conflicting emotions. Although he recognizes McDonald's role in the Doobie Brothers' history, he cannot disregard the difficulties that accompanied it. The band's history was significantly impacted by their relationship, which was characterized by both working together and having disagreements. Just as convoluted is McDonald's legacy. His life story shows how much it costs to be excellent, but he is still a revered musician. He was a visionary whose ambition frequently cost him relationships with his bandmates, colleagues, and the industry. His brilliance belied his complexities. There are high points and low points, peace and conflict, in Michael McDonald's life narrative. It's a poignant reminder that great music, like all great art, has its humble beginnings, and that the stories behind popular songs are as multifaceted as the people who create them. Such tales of Johnston, McDonald, and the Doobie Brothers' struggles and triumphs serve as powerful reminders of the potential and peril of striving for excellence.